Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for August 4th, 2022. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. The commissioners who are present for this evening's meeting are at City Hall and on Zoom. We also have staff from the city attorney and clerk's offices, as well as the city planning department. If you're joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting, however, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take any questions until the public testimony portion. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. If you simply want to watch the meeting, we encourage you to watch this streaming on the city's YouTube channel. You can access that at meridiancity.org/live. With that, let's begin with roll call. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Seal,
Present.
Commissioner Wheeler,
Here.
Commissioner Stoddard. Here. Commissioner Lorcher. Here. Commissioner Grace. Commissioner Grace and Commissioner Yearsley are absent.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. There are no modifications, so can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, so motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have two items on the consent agenda. The first is to approve the minutes of the July 21st, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Second is the finding, facts, and conclusion of law for Hickory Warehouse H 2022-0040. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, so motion carries. Okay, at this time, I'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case and respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called on only once during the public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up on our website to testify. You will then be unmuted in Zoom, or you can come to the microphones and chambers. You'll need to state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation of the meeting, it will be displayed on the screen, and you will either you or the clerk will run the presentation. If you have established that you are speaking on behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who may wish to testify. If you wish to speak on the topic, you may come forward in chambers, or if on Zoom, please press the raise hand button in the Zoom app. If you are only listening on a phone, please press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you are listening on multiple devices, such as a computer or a phone, please be sure to mute the extra devices so we do not experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you're finished, if the commission does not have questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers, or you will be, oops. Oh, gotcha. You'll return to your seat in chambers, or you'll be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant has finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make final decisions or recommendations to City Council as needed. With all that, at this time, I'd like to continue the public hearing for Lavender Place subdivision H 2022-0036. And we will begin with staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, good evening. First one before us tonight, actually, let me go ahead and share my screen, is Lavender Place subdivision, preliminary plat and conditional use permit amongst a private street application, as well as 3 alternative compliance requests. It's simple, but yet complicated, so bear with me. Site consists of approximately 3.8 acres, zoned R40, located 2160 East Lake Hazel, directly north of Discovery Park here, east of Locust Grove. The application is for a preliminary plat consisting of 4 single-family attached building lots and 26 single-family townhome lots on the 3.8 acres. a conditional use permit to construct the townhome lots within the R40 zoning district. And as I noted, a private street application for access and 3 alternative compliance requests for common drive standards, private street standards, and off-street parking. Lavender Place was annexed into the city in 2020 as part of Lavender Heights. As part of this annexation, the subject site was approved with the R40 zoning district. The applicant is proposing the project to be largely alley loaded, with all but 2 of the proposed units fronting on green space to comply with the private street applicability standards. Subsequently, multiple detached sidewalks are included for added pedestrian connectivity through the site. With the proposed plat of 30 residential units and the requested land use of alley loaded single-family attached and townhome units, the applicant is introducing a new housing type to the overall Lavender Heights subdivision. In addition, the proposed placement and site design offer great pedestrian connectivity to the nearby Discovery Park, which is directly to the south across Lake Hazel. It also has great access to the remaining open space and amenities within Lavender Heights to the north. According to the submitted conceptual elevations, which is here, and the applicant also has more in their presentation, the applicant is proposing to construct these homes with similar style and materials as the detached single family in the Lavender Heights subdivision to the north. These facts make staff help staff support the project in terms of the comprehensive plan, as well as to be compliant with the previous approvals. The project does comply with all UDC requirements except for those related to the alternative compliance requests. The applicant is requesting alternative compliance to the private street standard that prohibits a common drive from taking access from the private street. Also requesting alternative compliance to the off-street parking standards for the parking pad requirement for 3 and 4 bedroom homes, and alternative compliance to the common drive standards requiring no more than 3 lots off of one side of the common drive. The staff and director have approved these requests, but have offered an alternative solution to the requested off-street parking alternative request. Per the submitted parking exhibit, the applicant is proposing to alternative comply with the off-street parking standards by providing 18 parking spaces that will be designated for each specific unit as color coded here. Each of the proposed units is shown with a 2-car tuck under garage, providing the required off-street parking for 2 bedroom homes and meets the requirement of a 2-car garage for a 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom unit. However, due to the odd shape of the parcel that creates the constrained building area, the applicant has proposed private streets and an alley loaded project that does not readily allow for the required 20 by 20 foot parking pad for each unit that contains 3 or 4 bedrooms. The applicant placed the parking spaces directly across the private street from each unit to minimize the distance that future homeowners would have to traverse to access their designated parking spaces. In addition to the 18 parking spaces designated, the applicant shows 7 additional guest parking spaces, which might be a little hard to see, but there's 3 here, 1, 2, 3, 3 here, and 1 here, which would be 7 total. Note that parking is prohibited on the private street, as well as along Lake Hazel to the south and South Bloomerang to the west. So there's no available on-street parking surrounding this development unless they parked within the local street here, which would be very illogical. Staff does find that the applicant's proposed alternative, as shown here, is one option of meeting the intent of the off-street parking requirements when accounting for the required density of the development agreement, which has a minimum of 30 units, as well as the site constraints and limited access for the site. However, upon further review, staff is recommending a modification to this request. Staff recommends 1 parking space is allocated for each 3 or 4 bedroom unit instead of the 2. So basically take the colored dots and cut them in half. This would allow the applicant to increase the number of guest spaces from 7 to 16, which makes for more flexibility in their use for future residents and guests of the community. It is difficult to predict the number of cars that each unit will produce, so staff finds that this is a more prudent solution to offer additional spaces for the entire development and not just the units with more bedrooms. There are multiple ways to do this due to the site constraints. One of them would be for Commissioner Council to recommend that no 3 or 4 bedroom units are allowed, basically limit the number of bedrooms with the plat to 2 bedroom units only. Commission can make that recommendation. Council would have to agree to that. Staff's other recommended site design revision is in regard to adding a micropath lot to the development to further the north-south connection through the project. So staff recommended adding a micropath connection here, which would require this building. It can shift 10 feet or a mix of this building slightly shifting to the west and this one shifting to the east in order to accommodate a 5-foot micropath lot and 2.5 feet of landscaping on each side. This would allow the applicant to add an additional sidewalk segment around, or sorry, I would include adding an additional sidewalk segment by the plaza as well. So basically connect these sidewalks here and have here, and this is for the purpose of increasing the north-south connectivity through the site, because this is great and it's a great connection, but it just stops. And then there's no real sidewalk or pedestrian connection for residents to get to the arterial sidewalk or the collector sidewalk, which would then allow them easier access to Discovery Park. So that's why staff is recommending this. Staff does also have concerns with the placement and design of the driveways for lots 32 and 33, which would be these ones here. Due to the design of the private street, both of these driveways are deeper than 5 feet, which is the minimum garage setback for an alley loaded product, but are not 20 feet deep to accommodate an actual off-street parking space. So staff is concerned that these substandard driveways will encourage residents to park, but would also inherently inhibit safe vehicular movement around this curve near the entrance of the site. There was no written testimony as of about 4 p.m. today. Staff does recommend approval per the conditions in the staff report. I'll stand for any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Would the applicant like to come forward at this time? Good evening. Just need your name and address for the record, and the floor is all yours.
John Brecken, Brecken Land Design, 6661 North Glenwood Street, Garden City. I've prepared a short presentation that's very similar to Joe's. And I'd like to thank Joe. He's always a pleasure to work with. And we've worked judiciously on this project to get it to where we are today. It is a difficult site due to the shape and some of the site constraints. With that, I will proceed. Next slide, please. This is just general overview, kind of reiterating Lavender Heights subdivision, which you may be familiar with, and Lavender Place, which is on that Lake Hazel frontage, the triangular shaped property. It's between Lake Hazel and the canal on the north. Next slide. This is an overview of Lavender Heights and the already subdivision that's in the works on the north side. And you can see the canal kind of wraps the property and bisects Lavender Place from the rest of the development. There's a 10-foot wide regional pathway that parallels that path or the waterway, and also cuts through the north side of Lavender Place. And that was one of the things we're trying to integrate into this design. Next slide, please. So here's a bit of a zoomed in view. Our goal was to maximize the density and meet the original intent and goals of the project. And what this design shows is that these dwelling units front to the exterior on pathways on all sides. And so you can see, and we've got that regional pathway along the north, and the entry, the pedestrian entry to those units have a shared sidewalk that exits out onto that pathway. It's a similar situation on the west side on the Bloomerang frontage, as well as on the south side, Lake Hazel frontage. We have the same design with the front door facing the green space. And so that's made things very efficient for us and allows for minimizing the vehicular access into the site with essentially an alley load type of design. Here's kind of reiterates the building design and elevation. All of the units will be 2-story. And then there's a mix of 2 to 3 bedroom units, trying to maximize that density. Well, this is essentially the same thing I just talked about, flume designation. That is that frontage on the green space where the front door faces the green space. And this is a good slide too. It kind of shows part of our site constraint, is that far lateral, that irrigation ditch on the north, which is an amenity in itself, but it takes up a large square footage of the site, and that triangular shape was part of our challenge. So this slide identifies those similar options. We got the 10-foot regional pathway, and then we are proposing a plaza picnic space as an added amenity that ties into that pedestrian way. And then noted that Discovery Park is to the south and trying to allow for that pedestrian connection and use as additional amenity. This shows that parking. And I should probably go ahead and say, I've read through the staff report, and we are in agreement with Joe's recommendations, and are willing to comply with the conditions of approval, be that, I guess but the parking modification to allow for more visitor parking was one of those items. Right now on this plan, what we're showing there is the same thing, where we've got 2 parking stalls for each of the 3-bedroom units. And, but switching that to allow for more visitor parking, that's fine with us. So this identifies that corner there. And I think we have a solution. I don't see that as an issue. We're glad to make that modification, as well as extending the pathway in between the units on the south to allow for that pedestrian connectivity, and extending the sidewalk on the south, as Joe had mentioned. We've worked very closely with Joe as well as the fire marshal to come up with this design and make sure we're meeting all of the needs of the city, allow for adequate emergency vehicle access. Spoke to that. This is actually the old multifamily concept that was used when we started the project 2 years ago. That's there if we need to discuss it. Stand for questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant or staff?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Orchard, go ahead.
staff expressed an idea of possibly changing the 3-bedroom units to all 2-bedroom units. Is that something that you and staff considered in regard to establishing more parking?
We had considered that. We had talked through that option. One of the big goals was to try to maximize density here. And originally it was slated to be multifamily. And so this is kind of where we landed on that point, to try to provide a mix of housing option as well as maximize that density and provide adequate parking. All the units do have 2-car garage, but then, per the code, the 3-bedroom units need to have additional parking available. And due to the alley load concept that we have here, where the garage side fronts that private lane, they do not have a traditional 20-foot driveway in front of the garage.
Okay. One other question on Bloomer
Boomerang.
Boomerang Avenue, is that lighted at Lake Hazel? Is that a street, signal? Or is it just a turn in? You know,
I don't
Mr.
know
Chair.
off the top of my head. Joe, do you know?
there's a signal?
Mr. Chair, it is not lighted. No, it is, there is a right-hand turn lane off of Lake Hazel though, into this, onto that collector road.
So for the safety of the community of Lavender Place to be able to access the park across the street, what would be their way to be able to access that park safely?
That's a great question. I know that Lake Hazel is slated for road frontage improvements by ACHD due to the timing of the project. Those have not been installed at this time. I do know that that 10-foot wide regional pathway that comes through there, you can see on this overall plan, extends to the east. And I anticipate that it continues on, and if there would be a crosswalk at that location to allow that crossing.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a great question, Commissioner Lorcher. This came up at the original hearing for Lavender Heights. The other collector road, so we kind of have one at the quarter mile, and then on the south side, it's gonna be one at the half mile, directly east of the fire station lot, which is right here.
Mhm.
That is where the anticipated crossing for the multi-use pathway will be located, not at the Bloomerang one.
Any follow-up? Good. And I'll state the question a little more plainly. I guess how disruptive is it going to be if we recommend to make all these 2 bedrooms? Because in my mind, I mean, a compromise to me isn't, we're going to let you go without parking by minimizing the amount of parking that you have to provide. The parking's necessary. We've seen that it's necessary. Every time we try and make concessions like this, it turns into problems. And, you know, unfortunately, and again, I sympathize for this piece, you know, I'll call it infill. These lots, they're tough. They're really tough. And I like what you've done here. That said, you know, I mean, the parking is going to be an issue here. And especially the one parking spot that you have in the Hammerhead there. That one, it would be nice to see that one go away for sure. To have this limited to 2 bedrooms. I'm a member of an HOA, and kind of rules like this that are self-governed, you know, oh, that's my parking spot, not your parking spot. That's just neighbors are going to turn against neighbors in that as well. So personally, I would like to see just the 2 bedrooms in there. So I, you know, hopefully it still pencils out for you, I guess is the question.
Mr. Chair, our preference certainly would be to stick with the 3 bedrooms. Maybe we could work with staff to look at what that differential is. I understand your sentiment on the parking. However, I would also reiterate that we have worked quite diligently with staff to make sure that we do meet and provide adequate parking for all these units. We could maybe take another look at it if we could at least have some 3 bedrooms in there.
Yep.
I guess if I guess the question would be, you know, we're meeting the code requirements at this point. What are we going to hold ourselves to if we're going to modify that? Is there a certain number that we need to hit, or you know, if we're meeting the letter of the code, what differential there would be appropriate?
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, and it sounds like you guys have done a significant amount of work with staff. I mean, to be honest, with staff's recommending just 1 parking spot as a concession, I tend to try and support staff in the decisions they make. So they are infinitely more wise than I am in a lot of ways. That said, this one just, that's a tough one for me personally, so.
Mr. Chair, I maybe also just note that each one of these units does have a 2-car garage, and the majority of them are 2-bedroom already.
Understood. As far as the like trash services and things like that, how do you envision that happening? That was another big one that I had here. It was like, how are you going to get a trash truck in there, and how does everybody have a trash can out there on trash day?
Well, the rollaway trash units would fit into the garage. And then that was part of the reasoning to have that 5-foot apron in front of the garages there. It is a very efficient design.
All right. Anybody else have questions? Go ahead.
You. Hello, John. Got a question here for you concerning the, that, I think it's lot number 1, which would be up in the very top left corner. As right when you come in through the main bend. Yeah, come right down. So I guess right below that where the lot would be for the dwelling. Okay, then I'm doing the wrong one. Sorry, go to your left. I'm sorry, go to your left. And that's that one right there. Yeah, there we go. Ding, 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 ding. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your help. On that one right there, that's the only one, or those two, those units there, or that building there is the only concern on my side of just seeing people entering and exiting there because of all the traffic that's going to be back towards there, maybe wanting to exit. Are you guys fine with like putting up signs that would say like no trailer parkings, no on-street parking? I mean, just extra signage just to ensure that when people go buy toys with the great RV financing that's out there and they start stacking them up in these things, because that's what's going to happen there. That's going to be a tight squeeze right there. So, because most of these garages will be used for storage. And then somewhere these people are going to try to park their vehicles. It's also so.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wheeler, yes, signage would be welcome to reiterate the necessity to park appropriately. And, I guess that's this sort of housing style is not appropriate for, RV parking or the folks that have extra toys, let's say, and they're very efficient. They're geared towards, maybe a starter home for a young couple, a 2-bedroom unit, or, someone who's has an active lifestyle, travels a lot, or maybe an older couple, that sort of thing, that doesn't want a lot of yard maintenance, doesn't have a lot of stuff, and it doesn't require a 3 or 4 car garage with RV parking. And so all those items should be clear at the time of purchase.
I'd hope so, but people have a way of just expanding stuff. And that's where it's kind of like, just to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? I mean, it just happens, once they get settled. And that's why I'm kind of with the staff's recommendation too, on just making it two bedrooms through there. Cause I just know it's going to get throughout the whole area. Cause it just seems that that's going to just cause more and more congestion, more and more stuff, more and more space is being taken up.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wheeler, I understand, and there again, we've worked with staff diligently to provide parking and to maximize this space. We're seeing more and more of this housing style and these efficient designs throughout the valley, whether it's a multifamily or a single unit design such as this. There's definitely a need for this type of building. And it is apparent that the folks that are purchasing these are on board with that. There's quite a few, you see, we actually have been seeing a lot more of this design and infill projects in Boise. And I don't anticipate that it's going to be an issue. We can certainly work with staff to adjust parking a little bit further and try to meet that percentage that we're looking to accomplish.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify two things. One, the private street has to be signed no parking fire lane per fire code. So we will definitely be good on that. That's going to be per our fire Joe. So we'll be good there. I had another point and I just spaced. Oh, the comment about the 2-bedroom versus limiting it to 2-bedroom. I did not include that as a recommendation, as a condition. I included it in the text and the analysis of my staff report. So if that is something that commission is going to do, that would be a new condition. Welcome.
Thanks, Joe. All right, thank you very much, sir. All right, at this time, we'll take public testimony. Is there anybody signed up?
Is it on now? Okay. Mr. Chair, there is nobody signed up online or in person.
All right. Anybody raising their hand up?
We have someone.
I don't see anybody raising their hand online. Anybody in chambers? Oh. Oh. Go ahead and come on up. Give us your name and address for the record. There you go.
My name's Taylor Merrill. I'm with the West Park Company. We are the developer of Lavender Heights.
Your address, please.
My address is P.O. Box 344, Meridian, Idaho 83680.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
We appreciate the opportunity to have this presentation and again, working with Joe and staff. It's been kind of I think it was one of your first projects, Joe, when we broke ground on this thing. And it went from 90 lots to 191 lots over to satisfy some density. This particular lot was 48 units. We had what is that, 8 sixplexes, something like that initially. And we've gone through the formal conditional use process. I think we had to modify the development agreement in order to get to this point, shave it down and to make that parking work. I think it's really important to have a mixed use and working through the design group on this. We have 5 products in Lavender Heights, kind of some large perimeter lots. We've got some single family traditional stuff. We've got a alley load product in there. And we also have a courtyard product in there to achieve or to fit the many lifestyles, if you will, or the demands of homes, so to speak. When we refer to 2 and 3 bedrooms, it's important to us to have that mix. And we worked hard on that mix. We worked really hard on that mix to accommodate and to shift and to wiggle that parking in. It was important to us, to have the presentation or the functionality of this development, particularly in this component. And to come from kind of maybe a multifamily or into this, we're excited about this project. And I just like to stress that, these aren't 3-car facilities, so to speak. This is going to be a couple. This is going to be maybe a younger group. And we really need to preserve that 3rd bedroom. It's an office application, guys. It's really what it is. It's that 3rd amenity, so to speak. And our mix of it, I don't know exactly what that number is, whether it's 2 to 1 or half and half. I don't recall that off the top of my head, but I thought we worked well on the mix, and we would really appeal to maintain the report or the recommendation that the staff has to keep that mix in there. We don't think it will be a burden. We look at again, working with Joe in the fire department and all that to make this work. John brought up that one shot, but what did we have on this? 8, 9 reiterations of it to get to this. And we're excited about this little plat. It works well. the flow in at the private street. So again, I appreciate your interest in this and what you guys are doing up there. It's really exciting in the whole of what we see going on in South Meridian right now. And I'd ask that we support staff's recommendation and keep that mix thought through that park. Or litter or mess up that.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. All right, anybody else in chambers would like to come up? No? All right. I was gonna say, would the applicant like to come back up and say anything else? If not, you can signify no. Signify no, okay. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. So at this time, can I get a motion to go ahead and close the public hearing for item number H 2022-0036?
So moved.
But it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0036 Lavender Place subdivision. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, so the motion carries. Okay, who wants to go first?
Mr. Chair, I will.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lurcher.
Well, I agree with Joe. This is simple but complicated.
Oh, you're out of time.
Sorry. Like you said, infill is really challenging and it's gone through several different versions until the applicant came up to this one. And clearly the other versions did not suit this site. So the townhomes, I think, are a great idea. I love the idea of the houses facing the waterway and the multi-use. The third or fourth bedroom that's actually proposed in here could invite families to come in here. I'm concerned about safety going across the street to Discovery Park and some of the other amenities. And I think developers, and when we put together these applications, we have good intentions that everybody's going to follow the rules. And this really doesn't invite any guests to their home. There's nowhere to park. They can't park in the street. If they are going to park in the subdivision, they have to go, looks like a quarter mile to the maybe north. And you can't park on any of the streets. And if all those are assigned parking, I think it's going to end up being a little bit of a cluster. So if you were advertising a 2-bedroom plus a den, that would be different than advertising 3 or 4 bedrooms, because you're inviting people to have people in capacity in those rooms. And we know that most 2-car families have 2.5 cars. Some have 1, some have 3, some have 4, some have less. And to Commissioner Wheeler's point, people accumulate stuff and there's no requirement that they have to park their cars in their garage. So this could be a perfect storm for challenges for this community. So I do support the 2-bedroom units going down, or the 3-bedroom units going down to the 3 parking spaces. But I'm not sure if that's going to be enough.
Yeah, and I'm similar. I mean, I really like the product. I know a young man that would love to live in one of these things. So, because housing prices are just out of reach for most people at this point, and that, he would likely not be able to live in it alone. He would have to carry some kind of roommate in order to make the payment. So, I mean, right there, just having 2 or 3 bedrooms opens up to that scenario for sure. So, I mean, if every one of them has a car, then you have a 3 or 4 bedroom, that's 3 or 4 cars. So depending on how tight they want to live in there. So that's one of the scenarios. The other scenario is, the Super Bowl Sunday type of thing where a couple people in here decide they're going to throw a party. There's just nowhere to park other than the designated spots. So, I mean, if we want to keep a 3-bedroom scenario in there instead of a 4-bedroom. That would, to me, make it more palatable. Cap it at, no more. Not to say that you can't have them all 3-bedroom, but keep the 2 bedrooms 2-bedroom and then make it cap on 3 bedrooms. And then, as Joe recommended, go down to the 1 space. That to me is palatable, I guess is the word for it. Then you have the designated spaces. I am concerned about those first 2 units, just the safety of getting in and out of them. Because it is a private drive and all that. So maybe even the one at the end of that, limit that to 2 bedrooms just to keep the minimum amount of people that you can on that shared driveway. I'm not a big fan of shared driveways anywhere to begin with. And then possibly eliminate the parking spot that's in the hammerhead. Depending on what's parked in there, somebody does a wild job of parking in there, and the next thing you know, the fire truck can't get turned around. So they get to play bumper cars to get themselves in where they need to be. But that's my thoughts on it. I really do like the product. I think it's something that's needed, and it does have a starter home type of feel to it. It is something that I think is needed in the Meridian area for sure. That's a lot of stuff to put on a little tiny lot. So we need to make sure that, we're not allowing something in that's going to come back and have people beat up on us, because people are more than happy to come in here and beat up on everybody when things don't work out and when parking isn't enough, or when the streets aren't wide enough, or when people can't put their trash cans out. So those are things that we've heard over and over and over when people come in and testify. So we can substantiate the way that we talk about these things for sure. So. All right, I've rambled on for a while. So if the other commissioners would like to jump in, please feel free. Mr. Miller, go ahead.
I like infill projects a lot because it takes use of the land that's there that everybody jumps over. Plus, it also stretches the creativity of developers and the city and able to use something like this. So to me, I'm a big fan of this product type right here, and especially next to a park. That's going to be fantastic once they figure out how to get across it and everything like that in a safe way. But to be able to have that right across the street for what you're seeing is different families or whatever the mixes might be. But man, to be able to have that to go run to during these summer nights is great. I'm just with what the other commissioners have said and the chairman have said about the traffic flow in here. I'm not a big fan of 3-bedroom units in here because that's just is going to be an extra car. I like the idea of 2 spaces per those units that we see, the way that they're colored out. I just know that the garages are going to get filled up and the cars are going to go somewhere. And then that's when it's going to get just a little bit tougher and more difficult for traffic in there, more for safety purposes than it is just for commuter traffic. And I also understand the developers got to get an ROI and a return that's commensurate with risk. So trying to balance all of that and also to make this something that's going to be good and long-term for the city. It's just really hard for me to think about adding in 3 bedrooms in here.
Thank you. Mr. Stoddard, do you have anything?
No, I agree actually with all 3 of your comments. I think the parking is definitely an issue, and I agree about people filling their garages. And the biggest problem I see with it is just the access and the parking.
Okay. With that,
Chairman, do we want to ask the applicant if they want to work with staff a little bit more for a continuance, or would they want to just take it to city council?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, that's what I was going to suggest. Keep in mind, you guys are a recommending body here. So again, if you like staff's conditions of approval, you can make that recommendation forward, take that forward with city council. And the applicant will have a chance to have the same discussion with them and convince them to do something different. So don't feel like you have to try to solve the problem tonight. Again, staff, it sounds like you want to support staff. You want to make the project right. And we commend you for doing that because we know council doesn't want to have issues either. But if you feel like you just can't get there, certainly you can make a recommendation going forward and they can take it up with city council.
Well, and I mean, what I'm hearing is 2 bedrooms. I mean, I'm probably the only one on tonight. And I don't get to make a motion. The one good thing about sitting here, to do this. So, I think if it's gonna, I mean, if you want to go back and work with staff, if we're gonna allow a continuance, then there has to be, an appetite for more than just 2 bedrooms. If not, I'd say make your recommendations, let it go forward to city council and they'll chew on it. That's where I'm at. I don't want to have them have a continuance for something that, you know, if they're going to work with staff's already said that they're willing to concede the parking spots. We've kind of, the feedback that I've heard so far is that that's too much. You know, and I'm on that same page. I think that's conceding too much in order to make this fit. So if it goes back to staff to work on it, I think we have to have a stomach for more than 2 bedroom. If that's okay with everybody, then we can go through the motions.
Mr. Chair, do we want to ask the applicant if they have a preference?
We need to reopen the public hearing. So if you'd like to do that, I'll take a motion on that.
I motion to open the public hearing so the applicant may speak.
For, oh, do I have a second?
For, oh my gosh. For Lavender Place subdivision, item number H 2022-0036.
Have a second? Okay. Then,
Chairman?
yep, go ahead.
I think, Commissioner Lorcher, I think we can kind of discuss that through and then let him just go ahead and approach that to city council. And talk about it and be able to work out maybe some of the recommendation before they speak with city council, sort of the thought on that one. Because that's what I'm hearing from staff on that we're just recommending. And then they can work out those details with staff and then, or with council, and then they can make those modifications on that if need be. So. What was the modification that needed to be done for the parking?
Or the parking, well, that's,
The visitor parking, was that the one that had the guest parking, those 2 spots that was there, the hammerhead?
that was, I would recommend they do away with any of the parking in the hammerhead. So, I mean, it's already hard enough to get in and out of there. So, that's me personally, I would like to see something like that, but again, I don't make a motion. I mean, really what it comes down to me is the 3 and 4 bedroom units and the parking that's associated with that. Like Joe said, he didn't recommend that they make it only 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom, only that was something they could be done if we decided to go that route. So really that needs to be in the motion, whatever it needs, you know, I would recommend that that's in the motion that is made.
I'm ready to make a motion if you guys are good, unless you wanted to, Commissioner Lochard, or, all right.
Go right ahead.
Okay, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, we recommend approval for the city council of final number H 2022-0036 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of August 4th, 2022, with the following modifications. That there is no parking in what is known as the hammerhead, and that no units greater than 2 bedrooms be allowed.
For a second. Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2022-0036 with the aforementioned modifications. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, no opposed, so motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Always interesting to work through those.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, can I just seek clarification? Commissioner Lorcher, were you a yay or a nay?
Oh, I'll say yay.
Yay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, and with that, I'd like to open public hearing for item number H 2022-0038, Torino Locust Grove subdivision. And we will begin with staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I start my presentation tonight, I'd just like to inform the commission that Alan Tiefenbach has tendered his resignation with the city. And as of tomorrow, he'll no longer be employed by us. So he's accepted a new position in Whitefish, Montana. So we wish him the very best, but I thought you'd like to know. He's very excited for his new opportunity. So if you see him out and about here in the next week or so, tell him hi and wish him the best.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Lucky guy.
Yeah, he feels pretty lucky. He's beaming from ear to ear. All he wants is to get his house sold. Okay, back to city business here.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
So I'm filling in tonight, obviously, for him. I told him, yeah, since it is your last week with the city, I'll go ahead and take one for the team tonight and go ahead and present this project for you. So tonight, I'm here to present to you the Torino Locust Grove subdivision. It is an annexation and a short plat request for you this evening. The property consists of approximately 1.03 acres of land currently zoned R1 in Ada County. And the applicant is here to request annexation to the R8 zone and develop it with 4 residential single-family lots. I wanted to go on the record early. Looking at the record, there's 5 or 6 letters of testimony in opposition of this project, and there seems to be some misinformation that the residents think that this is possibly a potential for multifamily, and it's not. Basically, the developer's here to talk about constructing 4 single-family detached homes on the subject property. So I just wanted to clear that up before I get into too many details of the project. So this is a lot and block in the county subdivision. The physical address of this property is actually 870 South Locust Grove Road. Here in the arrow, you can see that it's actually vacant. There are some mature trees that need to be addressed as part of the submittal the revised landscape plan moving forward. But again, on the upper right hand or left hand corner here, you can see the proposed short plat. This property does not have access to a local road like we typically see in our subdivision. It is an infill. So the only access point with this particular project is from Locust Grove. And so the applicant this evening is proposing a common driveway, your favorite, to serve as access for the proposed 4-lot subdivision. Typically, we'd like to see a public street extended or even a potential private street, but under the city's ordinance, private streets are not allowed to connect to arterial roadways. So in this particular case, the code does not prohibit common driveways from connecting to arterial roadways. So in this particular case, that's what the applicant's doing. The common driveway itself is actually 20 feet wide, but the easement to serve the common driveway is actually 30 because they're extending sewer and water mains into it so that they could provide services to the back lot. You can see that staff is recommending a change to the conditions of approval in the staff report. I placed that condition in the hearing outline that I prepared for you. I've wordsmithed that. There was an error. I hope the applicant's here tonight or at least online. I wanted to inform him that the code requires that a common driveway be in a common lot, not an easement as it's currently depicted. So I've had to correct I know the applicant was working with Alan to correct the condition of approval to try to satisfy our requirement, but it's not going to work. And so essentially what I'm proposing tonight is this common driveway needs to be in a common lot. And we're also recommending that it be extended to the east boundary. And that does a couple things is obviously we have 1 acre county subs to the east. And eventually we anticipate that redeveloping at some point in the future. And so the hope is by extending that common driveway to the eastern boundary, at some point when those properties to the east redevelop, we'll be able to get access to that local street like the code wants, and then have the access to Locust Grove closed or at least minimized to emergency access only. So that's why we're pushing for that common driveway to be extended. I was able to look at the plat. It will affect the buildable lots, but they still meet the R8 standards. So by creating a common lot and having that extended does not impact the buildability, the building area on these lots. So they'll still meet the minimum R8 standards. Now, the one hiccup to that is the code does not allow common driveways to exceed 150 feet. unless otherwise approved by the fire marshal. So I've added that as a provision as well in Alan's condition that the applicant obtain fire marshal approval to exceed the 150-foot requirement. I'm hoping that the fire marshal will see staff's point and lean and allow the applicant to go deeper into the site without a hammerhead or turnaround. That way it makes the project more viable, but it also allows us to get future connectivity. So I'm hoping between tonight's hearing and transitioning to city council with this project that we'll be able to get the fire marshal on board to do that. If not, then more than likely staff will just probably recommend that the common drive not exceed 150 feet and not get that connection. But I at least wanted to keep you looped in that there's a little bit of work to be had and the applicant should be aware of that as well moving forward. The only required landscaping for this property is the buffer along Locust Grove. You can see that here because it is under 5 acres. The code does not require any amenities or any common open space either as far as passive or active open space for this project. So pretty straightforward application. As I noted in the hearing outline, there's quite a bit of testimony having to do with density, traffic, and then course compatibility with the adjacent land uses. County residents are concerned that this is quite a bit more dense than what's currently in the area, which I wouldn't disagree. It is. There's 4 lots versus one unit per unit, or 1 lot, 1 building per unit. So staff is recommending approval. And with that, I would stand for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. The applicant like to come forward? Are they online? Looks like Jeremy Roush online.
What's the last name?
Roush?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Jeremy, go ahead and give us your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
My name is Jeremy Roush. I live at 1684 East Borzoi Court, Meridian, Idaho 83642. And it's asking me if I should join as a panelist or stay as an attendee. There we go. Okay, thank you. Yes, so this is my proposal is to have 4 single-family homes constructed on 4 individual lots with a private driveway. Now, Alan tried to explain this to me with the common lot. This is a new, can you explain this to me in a way that that I can understand what is the staff recommending for this?
Bill, if you want to jump in.
Absolutely, Jeremy. Nice to meet you. Sorry.
You
you're
too,
getting this
Bill. Thank you. No, I
information yet.
understand. Yes.
So essentially, Alan had conditioned your project to provide the common driveway in an easement. And our code requires that it be in a common lot. So essentially, you'll just, when you're coming in and ready to record the subdivision, your common driveway you'll just add a common lot to the face of the plat rather than an easement. That's really the difference here.
Will the driveway need to be extended all the way to the far east, or that will it'll end at 150 feet?
The expectation currently is that you extend it to the east boundary as originally conditioned to facilitate future access to that local street. So I know you and Alan agreed to just extend an easement, but we can't just extend the easement. The issue with that, and just for the commission too, not to have a sidebar conversation, but the concern with just building a portion of the driveway and not having it extended is who pays for that and how do we get that in the future without having the developer put up the money in perpetuity, and we don't want to manage that. I mean, the goal is really, if we want connectivity, we want that to be something in the future, it needs to be constructed now with development. And that's why we talked about that with the chair this afternoon, and we felt that was the most prudent thing to do, is not just require it a common lot, but to also require the driveway to be built.
Okay, I can understand that recommendation for sure, and I can comply to that also. I have my plan is to construct 3 to 4 bedroom homes, 1 to 2 stories on these lots, accessed by the common driveway. I really don't have anything else to bring forth.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or concerns for the applicant or staff? Real quick, Bill, I know that the continuation of the private driveway and common lot to the end is one of the requirements on that is to get approval from the fire department. What if Chief Bongiorno comes back and says, no, not going to happen, need something else? Is that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, that's what I was saying. The potential could be either he may come back and say, build it and put bollards at 150 feet. So it does kind of meet the intent of the code, or we may just have to go forward to city council and just say they won't approve anything more than 150 feet and it doesn't get extended. Or one of the lots is restricted until such time as it's extended and you put a hammerhead on one of the lots and restrict it. But I don't think the developer wants that particular option.
Sure. Okay, just wanted to make sure we have the options laid out there. Any questions, any concerns? All right, we'll go ahead and open this up for public testimony. Do we have anybody that would like to speak?
Mr. Chair, there is no one online nor in person signed up.
Okay. If anybody in chambers would like to speak, please raise your hand. Anybody online, if you'd like to speak, please hit the raise your hand button. Going once, going twice. Seeing nobody would like to testify. Jeremy, do you have anything further to add?
No, I don't. If this continues to go further, how do I know what the fire marshal's going to say?
I'm sure Bill will probably communicate that. So with Alan leaving, somebody from the city planning staff, and Bill, jump in if I'm completely off base here, but somebody from the city planning staff will definitely be in touch on that.
Okay.
Jeremy, I'm going to take you to the finish line on this one. So you're in good hands.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry. This is just kind of new to me just in the last, right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And at this time, can I get a motion to close the public hearing on H 2022-0038 Torino Locust Grove subdivision? It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for application number H 2022-0038. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, if anybody would like to comment or make a motion, I am all ears.
This seems pretty straight up and down, right? Okay. Well,
Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
all right. I was gonna say, seeing if Commissioner Stoddard wanted to make a stab at it here.
Okay.
Now you got this section over here too that you have to read to, this 20-foot with the condition of, and he has this part there where it says, yeah, the 20-foot wide common drive that he wordsmithed it all for you. You got one page turn, but you can. Under staff recommendation.
Yep.
On the back. Sure. It's on.
Oh, Commissioner Stoddard, go ahead.
Make a motion to approve after considering all staff applications, public testimony. I move to recommend approval of city council to the city council of file number H 2022-0038 as presented in staff report for the hearing date of August 4th, 2022, with the revision to condition 1B that only the common driveway be extended to the eastern property line. And with staff recommendation of the 20-foot wide common driveway shown on the short plat shall be extended to the eastern property line in a common lot and receive fire marshal approval to exceed 150 feet in accordance with UDC 11-6C-3D when the property to the east annexes into the city and develops. Access to the subject property shall occur from South Torino Avenue and the existing South Locust Grove access shall be closed or used for emergency access purposes only.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2022-0038 with the aforementioned modifications. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Good job. Yeah. All right. That's okay. All right, at this time, I'd like to open public hearing I'd like to open up file number H 2022-0030 Overland and Wells 2, and we will begin with staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The next application before you is a request for a conditional use permit. There is also a concurrent development agreement modification application that is going along with that. It does not require a formal recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight. Council is the decision-making body on that. This site consists of 11.65 acres of land, 18.75 for the overall site. It's zoned CG and is located at 2600 East Overland Road. This property was annexed in 1994 and a development agreement was approved in 2016, which was later amended in 2020. A preliminary plat was approved later in 2021, which included the adjacent property to the east. A final plat has not yet been approved for this property. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is mixed use regional. The applicant has submitted an application, as I mentioned, for a modification to the existing development agreement to change the development plan on the northern portion of the site from a retail grocery store to multifamily residential. This application does not require action by the commission. As I mentioned, City Council is the decision-making body on this, as well as the concurrent conditional use permit application. A conditional use is requested for a multifamily residential development consisting of 351 apartment units with a mix of studio, 1 and 2 bedroom units at a gross density of 30.13 units per acre. A clubhouse, swimming pool, and other site amenities are also proposed on 11.65 acres of land in the CG zoning district. The conceptually approved Winco grocery store on this site would have provided a regional draw to this area as desired. And what was the multifamily development to the east was largely based on that approval. Whereas residential uses do not, but they do provide housing for workers in the mixed use regional designated area and the general vicinity. A multifamily residential development consisting of 360 units by the same developer was recently approved to develop on the adjacent property to the east. This is proposed to be the second phase of development. Although the residential uses are not integrated within the, with the adjacent commercial uses as desired in the mixed use regional designated areas, pathways are proposed for pedestrian connectivity between these uses. Staff is not recommending a mix of and integration of uses with this development as the property has already been entitled with zoning. However, an amendment to the DA is required in order to development this site as proposed. Access is proposed from the south via South Wells Avenue to be extended from Overland Road, a mobility corridor with the first phase of the subdivision, and from the west via East Cinnamon Drive, a local street with the second phase of the subdivision. This site is approximately 1/2 mile west of the Overland Eagle Road intersection on the south side of the I-84 off-ramp. Transit services are available to serve this site via Route 42. Overland Road is listed in the capital improvement plan to be widened to 7 lanes from Locust Grove to Eagle Road between 2036 and 2040. The intersection of Eagle and Overland Roads is listed in the CIP to be widened to 7 lanes on the north leg, 8 lanes on the south, 8 lanes on the east, and 8 lanes on the west leg, and signalized between 2031 and 2035. The ACHD report states the PM peak hour level of service is E, which is acceptable level of service. Although overall, the level of service may be acceptable, certain roadway segments and or intersections turning movements are currently failing and will be worse with the adjacent multifamily residential development to the east and the proposed development. This should be considered when approving this application prior to the aforementioned improvements planned with the CIP being completed. Off-street parking is proposed in excess of UDC standards. A total of 629 spaces are required. 653 are proposed. Bicycle parking is proposed in accord with the minimum standards. A minimum of 3.18 acres of common open space that meets the standards for such is required, or alternative compliance may be requested. The common open space exhibit that was submitted, as shown here, shows 2.55 acres is proposed, consisting of linear open space along the north and west boundaries of the site, a park with grass consisting of 9,803 square feet in area, a large amenity area, rooftop terraces on the clubhouse and leasing office, and street buffer and additional common area along East Cinema Drive. There is a 20-foot wide sewer easement located along the west boundary of the site with a 14-foot wide access road that will prohibit landscaping in that area. Therefore, much of that area will not be able to be counted toward the minimum open space standards. Staff recommends revisions to the plans to comply with the minimum standards, and an updated common open space exhibit is submitted prior to the council hearing. Amenities are proposed for the development exceeding the minimum standards. Conceptual building elevations and perspectives were submitted as shown for the proposed structures. The two northern buildings will be 4 stories in height. The two southern buildings will be 3 stories, and the clubhouse will be 2 stories. A modernist vernacular theme of design is proposed with a monochromatic color palette of off-whites and shades of gray with lap siding accents and decorative balcony railings for color and texture. Final design is required to comply with the design standards in the Architectural Standards Manual. Written testimony was received from Greg Goins, Winco Foods. They are in support of the proposed development, and they are the property owner. Elizabeth, I'm going to slay your last name, I'm sorry, Cockeritz, Givens Persley is the applicant's representative. They did submit a response to the staff report. She is asking for condition number A3, which requires a final plat to be submitted, approved, and a plat recorded for the second phase of the subdivision in order to create a developable parcel prior to submittal of a certificate of zoning compliance and design review application for the proposed development. The applicant is requesting approval to submit those applications, the CZC and DR, after the final plat for this phase has been approved by council, but before it's recorded. The findings for the first development agreement amendment and preliminary plat require the property to be subdivided. And that what that means is the final plat has to be recorded in order for the subdivision to property to be subdivided. And that is required prior to submittal of any CZC and DR applications for the site. Therefore, this request cannot be granted. Condition number B, 2.9 requires street signs to be in place, sanitary sewer and water system to be approved and activated, road base approved by ACHD, and the final plat recorded prior to applying for building permits. The applicant is requesting this condition is amended so that they can apply for building permits after the final plat is approved, but not yet recorded. Same deal as I just explained. Final plat is required to be recorded first in order to create a parcel that's eligible for development. This request cannot be granted either. Condition A2 requires a revised common open space exhibit to be submitted prior to the council hearing that complies with the minimum standards. The applicant is proposing to request alternative compliance from these standards, and from what I understand, isn't planning to submit any revised plans prior to council. So I'll let them speak to that. I have not received a formal application for an alternative compliance on that. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions in the staff report. Staff will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Sonia. At this point, would the applicant like to come forward? Let's take your name and address, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Elizabeth Kekritz. I am with Givens Persley, 601 Bannock, Boise, Idaho, 83702. I am here on behalf of the applicant Morgan Holdings and Stonehill. Also with me today are representatives of the applicant, including Ryan Stonehill and Jonathan Fregoso, and they're also here and available to answer any questions you may have. First, I want to thank Sonia for her hard work on this. There was a lot to get through. She had been on vacation. We were on vacation. It was a lot to sort of pull together. And so she has put in a lot of work on this in the last week or so, and we really appreciate that. And we are in full agreement with her conditions of approval. And based on our back and forth earlier today with our requests, we are withdrawing those. We will still be seeking alternative compliance, and we'll be filing as some sort of amended amenity open space plan in the future. But as far as the timing of the submittals for the different various applications, we have no problem with that based on the prior approvals. Okay. The applicant is proposing to develop phase 2 of the Seasons at Meridian's apartments on approximately 11.65 acres at 2600 East Overland Road. As Sonia mentioned, the site was annexed in Zone CG in 1994. And in 2016, the city approved a development agreement governing the site to the east, where the applicant is developing phase 1 of the Seasons at Meridian, the parcel before you here today, and the site to the south, which is still slated for commercial development. The 2016 development DA allows development of the site at Overland consistent with the concept plan. The concept plan that was approved shows an 85,000 square foot retail building north of Cinema Drive and with vacant land to the south. However, since then, Winco has decided to not develop a new store at this location, but also does not want to sell the property to another commercial or retail developer. So they've entered into an agreement to sell the property to the applicant, Morgan Stonehill, who proposes the multifamily residential use on this property. To develop the western parcel where Winco originally intended to develop, the DA requires a DA modification to include the new concept plan consistent with the multi-use regional, with the mixed use regional designation in your flume. The proposed multifamily use and development plan is consistent with the designation in the flume because it contributes to the mix of uses that are desired in a mixed-use regional area by added needed density, higher density residential in this area that's really developed with a lot of retail, hospitality, and office development and very little multifamily or even single-family homes. And you can see here that this mixed use region is really large. It's 650 acres. The mixed use regional designation calls for a mix of employment, retail, and residential, with residential densities between 6 and 40 units per acre. The mixed use in this area currently, let's see. As explained by Sonia in her staff report, the proposed plan provides housing for nearby employment uses and contributes to the mix of uses desired in this designation. The adjacent commercial development to the west provides retail, restaurant, and entertainment uses, which will be utilized by the residents and with the easy walking distance. The proposed apartments continue a nice transition between there is single-family residential to the east and the large commercial center to the west that includes the movie theater. In addition to the DA modification and consistent with the CG zoning, we're also requesting approval of a conditional use permit for multifamily use. The Seasons at Meridian Phase 2 proposes 351 apartments with a density of 30.13 units per acre. The site, as we'll show, it includes 4 horseshoe-shaped buildings that allow for really dramatic streetscape perspectives while concealing much of the parking in the internal areas and garages. And it provides for open space area to create neighborhoods centered around parks that allow for active and passive recreation and gathering. As you can see from this aerial map showing the arrangement, it really highlights how well this arrangement creates that urban-like block pattern that's called for in the comprehensive plan for the mixed-use regional zoning. It frames the open spaces, it really sets them aside. It's interlaced with landscape pathways throughout this development, connecting two developments, both the apartments to the east, the cinema to the west, and to the proposed commercial to the south. And it all really connect and integrates throughout this whole region. Okay, the architectural theme, as Sonia mentioned, it's a more modern vernacular, drawing inspiration from the aesthetics of the international style. It's really bringing something sort of new and different. There's a lot of sort of more traditional farmhouse, modern farmhouse styles in Meridian, and this is bringing something really new and exciting to this region, to this area. The seasons at Meridian Phase 2 apartments will include a mix, as mentioned, of studio 1 and 2 bedroom units. And plus, one thing really feeding into this mixed use designation is the applicant is proposing 3 live work units on the far western edge, where people can actually live and work, operate their business right there where they're working. The units will range from 569 square feet to 1,159 square feet. And each unit has been designed with expansive private patios and balconies, with a minimum area of the 80 square feet that really create this great indoor-outdoor space. The interior of the units are designed with really large kitchen dining areas, great big dual vanities in the primary bathrooms, large showers, lots of storage. They're really designed for a really nice upscale sort of living, lots of light, lots of windows coming in here. So in speaking just a little bit more to just the overall look, as you can see on these couple of pages with the elevations, this approach is, there's a lot of clean lines. There's shadow box frames. The color palette is really sort of muted with off-whites and grays and some browns, decorative balconies, railings. But it really creates a really nice looking, actually, to me, it creates a really exciting looking building in an area where there are a lot of buildings that just look like the same 3-story apartment walk-up that you see all over the place. And this is really trying to offer something different here. So we have been working on the open space exhibit. And so based on what we had been going back and forth with on Sonia over the last couple days is the much of the western border that we were including in the open space calculations is ineligible to be included in that open space calculation. So right now, as it stands, the development has 15.9% qualified open space, which includes a wide perimeter walking path on the north. It includes part of the qualified open space includes part of the walking path on the west, but whether it's included or not, it still is there. It's still going to be landscaped. It's going to still be a very nice amenity. Both those pathways connect down to the south, to the east, to the west. There's also what's really cool about this, and what I think will really speak to a lot of sort of the young professionals, the professional couples that'll be moving in here, is above the clubhouse, part of the open spaces, there's a large rooftop patio, both above the clubhouse, and then there's a second rooftop patio, sort of wine bar space above on the building on the northeast corner that you'll be able to look out down into the pool area or out across over to the mountains from. There's also a large grassy area. And then the area along the Cinema Plaza area, which is the one that abuts the Cinema Lane, is also going to be really sort of a really exciting area that really integrates and moves into that commercial zone. There's going to be some new things there, like some hammock parks where there's areas where there's already hammocks set up, where there's going to be lots of tables, places for sitting, places just for families to meet and gather and really integrate while they're both living and residing in the development, but also integrating into the proposed commercial that will be coming in the future. And so to that end, we will be requesting alternative compliance and be looking at submitting some additional proposed open space with this prior to the city council meeting. There are significant buffers. This does abut Interstate 84. It's actually more on the off ramp. So the cars, there won't be quite as much traffic. The cars will be getting off and decelerating as they go past this development and the development adjacent to it. So on the north, the buildings are set back over 100 feet from the property line there. But on the north, there is a 35-foot wide buffer with a walking path along that. As I mentioned, on the west, there's also a walking path. That buffer is 22 feet. And on the south, it's much larger, but just directly up against the street, there's a 10-foot wide buffer. There is a significant amount of open space, and these are really nice. So I'm going to show you some pictures. These are really nice amenities. This is a really highly amenitized sort of project that's really going to lend itself well towards younger working professionals, individuals, couples, that sort of people. The Cinema Drive Plaza is really going to be a seamless transition from this area into the multifamily, into the commercial to the south. Too far. There are 15 qualified amenities. And depending how you count them, it's always a little bit tricky if there's 15 or 14 or 20. But there is a clubhouse that includes a game room, a coffee bar. There are parcel lockers that will be accessible 24/7, business center, classroom stations, event space, Wi-Fi, HD TVs. There is a 3,500 square foot fitness center that will include yoga and spin studios. As I mentioned, there are 2 rooftop gathering and community spaces that are just a really nice sort of amenity to be able to look out over towards the mountains. There's a pocket library, which is something that was new to me, where there's a little area where you can, well, there'll be some chairs and some books, so you can have a sort of a quiet place to borrow a book, return a book. Grills and fire pits, and then they're looking at some public art throughout the space, finding some local artists to design some public art. There is a large grassy area between 2 of the buildings that's well in excess of the 5,000 square foot minimum. Courtyards, the hammock lawns with 6 separate picnic areas. And then, as I mentioned, the rooftop terraces. There's a pool and the multi-use perimeter paths that connect. And also in this day and age, there are charging stations for electric vehicles. We anticipate that there would be certainly people with electric vehicles residing here. This slide just shows some imagery and some concepts for the quality of the design of these outdoor gathering spaces. You can see some examples of like hammock lawns, of a pocket library, of really nicely landscaped pathways. Here is what I find looks really cool is this is a rendering of the actual pool that they would like to put in here. And you can see in the back of the pool where that rooftop bar is looking down into this pool. It just looks like a really cool, fun place to get to hang out. Here's some examples of concepts for the interior of the clubhouse. As you can see, it's going to be modern, light, bright, open, just a really fun place to live and work here in Meridian. The entrance into the property, the Seasons at Meridian is really planning on having a wide boulevard with trees. So when you come into it, you really come into this off of Cinema Drive and look forward and you see this clubhouse, you see the leasing office, you come through on this main wide tree-lined street, which really integrates it into the rest of the community. Seasons 1 also has a lot of trees, wide boulevards. It's in a different sort of style, but this is going to integrate really well into the other communities and developments right around here. As Sonia mentioned, there is plenty of parking, or it is overparked for what the city of Meridian standards are. There are over 653 parking spaces in total, which includes 353 garaged or covered parking spaces. Some of the units have garages, and then there are quite a few carports across here to protect the cars. Traffic, ACHD reviewed and approved the traffic analysis for the development. Importantly, and this is where we'll just sort of end on this because I know there's a lot of questions about it. There is traffic in this area, but this development actually has significantly less traffic than the Winco would have. In fact, there's 51 fewer AM peak hours, 547 fewer PM peak trip hours, and 659 fewer Saturday peak trip hours. Services can all be met. The applicant is in full agreement of all of the terms and conditions of approval. And we just ask for your recommendation of approval of the DA modification and a recommendation of approval of the CUP. I'll stand for questions.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody have questions, concerns for applicant or staff?
Sure.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Had a question concerning, I think it's Cinema Drive. That's going to be lighted, correct? Or what is there going to be a lighted intersection there off of Overland into Cinema Drive headed northbound?
So Cinema Drive is on the south boundary, and then below that is the vacant space. The access will be from Wells Street,
Wells, okay.
and Wells is being required both as a condition of approval from ACHD for this and for the other development to be turned into a full access intersection. It will have a stoplight at it and dedicated turn lanes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about the
Yeah.
long name of the street there, but yes, thank you for taking me to the right place on that one. When it comes down to the amenity that you were saying, that overlooked the pool, kind of like a nice little wine bar area, stuff like this. Is this going to be a room that's people are going to rent out, or is it just going to be like a gathering place that can happen? Or what is the developers' kind of thoughts on that?
I believe the developer's thoughts are at this time, it would be primarily just for the use of the residents. However, I would anticipate that if a resident wanted to rent the space for some sort of special event for a resident, that they would be able to do that.
Okay. And then one more time, can you run through the numbers again about how big the first phase is going to be, and then the total amount on the
Okay,
units?
There's 351 units, 351 total.
Okay,
Have the breakdown here. And the other development, the adjacent development, was also right at 350, 360.
okay. Okay, because I saw a slide up there that said 694 units, not including seasons at Meridian.
Yes, so in looking at the multifamily in this area, in the overall mixed-use regional zone,
Okay,
future land use map, there's very little multifamily in this area.
very good. Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there's only that many units previously approved than the ones that are currently being developed, and then these to come.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Anyone else? All right. This time, we'll go ahead and open up public testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody?
My speaker, oh, there it goes. There's no one signed up online, but I do have two gentlemen, Orion Morgan and Jonathan Fergazzo signed up to speak.
All right, either one of you want to come on up? Just give us your name and address for the record and floor is yours.
Jonathan Fergoso, 2700 East Overland Road, with Morgan Stonehill, the developer. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present in front of you guys. To give a little background on the site, Morgan Stonehill is a partnership between two families, Steinberg family and the Morgan family. The Morgan family has been building apartments across the country for 3 generations. It was started by Ryan Morgan's grandfather, and Ryan would be happy to provide more information on that. We were fortunate enough to present in front of you, council and the planning commission for phase 1, which was approved. But when we came out, we set out to bring best in class design techniques to the Meridian market, and believe it was well received by staff and planning commission. We're currently working through the process of starting that project, but we intend to break ground in the next 30 days, and assuming we're able to record our plat in the next coming weeks. But we're very excited about the opportunity, and about 6 to 8 months ago, when we were approached by Winco, who formally made the decision to not proceed with their store at that location, they decided to focus more on the South Meridian area, given their other second location north on Meridian Road. They approached us, they saw how well received our project was, and they liked what we were bringing to the area and approached us first before taking this out to the market. We jumped at the opportunity to provide much needed housing. We recognized that, we also mourn the loss of the Winco foods. That was a great amenity, one of the reasons we loved our site so much. So we set out with the intent to really diversify the product offering. So what you're seeing here is a little bit of contrast to what phase 1 is, which has larger units focused more on the traditional garden style apartment. We went out and set out urban design, smaller units with 1 and 2 bedroom units, no 3 bedroom units, create more of an urban product and focus really on bringing in and tying all the mixed use elements together. Actually went in and added 3 live work units that are about 1,300 square feet. They're situated along the main drive. If you look at our design, there's really 2 kind of main drivers here. What we did is there's a main boulevard that goes straight down the site and feeds into Cinema Drive. Our intent is to work with ACHD to create some kind of enhanced crosswalk and bring safety. If you go, can I control this? Sure. Yeah, if you don't mind, please. Thank you so much. Completely frozen now. Perfect. So if you look at, it's kind of, our buildings are clustered around this main boulevard that's feeding down. There's going to be we intend to do enhanced landscaping down both sides of the street. We really want to encourage, folks from the future retail to come down this road, walk into and, view the amenities and continue to kind of enjoy what's there. The live work units will be situated at the northwestern building. If you look at it, there's direct access parking, and the idea is, folks, the residents can run their business on the ground floor, live upstairs, and actually park directly and access that workspace downstairs. The second thing we did here, and it's really driven to meet the mixed use design intent, was enhance this area to the south. This is kind of what we call our Cinema Drive Plaza. What you're going to see here is essentially we wanted to set out and create an area that was a really attractive sitting area. So we plan to create sitting areas, places where people can gather and, enjoy an ice cream down south or have dinner down there. And then also enjoy the walk, tie into the trail system, walk across our site. And one thing I want to stress is that our trail system will actually tie over to phase 1 and will be interconnected. So there will be actual loop through the entire property. again, we wanted to meet kind of this, create great places for people to gather, deliver best-in-class amenities, and, offer a product that's differentiated from phase one and best in class. With that, I'll turn it over to Ryan Morgan.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, sir, name and address.
Good evening, everyone. Ryan Morgan, 2700 East Overland Road. It is a pleasure to be speaking in front of you again. Jonathan really covered a great amount of what I wanted to speak about. I guess a little bit about us. We've been developing, as he mentioned, for 3 generations. My grandfather started building in 1959. Built coast to coast, and we built Class A multifamily. That's all we build, and we really focus on providing incredible amenities, offering communities to our residents. We really focus on that community aspect and bringing people together. The rooftop deck, the pool deck, the different lawns, the dog amenities, the connectivity within this community, and then the connectivity within like the community of, I guess, this old mixed use facility, the commercial to the west, and then our facility to the east is really important to us. Actually, our neighborhood meeting, the only people that came out were business owners to the west who were actually really excited about us bringing new households and people that can work their businesses. One of the business owners actually was complaining that he doesn't have enough workers to run his business, and he can't actually open up a second floor to the public because he had no one to work there. So he was really excited about us being able to offer that to this. Yeah, we're really excited to be here. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Again, this is going to be a beautiful project, and we're excited to build it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir, would you like to testify? No, only one here, so I had to point you out. Looks like we have a couple people online. If either one of them want to testify, please hit the raise your hand button. If not, and if nobody else has any further questions, we'll let the applicant come back up. If there's anything else you'd like to add.
One thing I would just like to stress is, knowing how traffic is one of the main concerns. Our traffic engineer in the traffic study actually, the traffic counts are decreased compared to what was previously approved at the Winco. The apartments are less intensive use, I think would be a benefit or would help alleviate some of the traffic concerns in the area.
Thank you very much. All right, and with that,
Mr. Chair,
right ahead.
I have a question for the applicant, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So either Elizabeth or Jonathan, if you don't mind, I think it was you, Jonathan, that said something about an enhanced crosswalk on that side. Go ahead, and if you don't mind, just kind of explain a little bit more like that. Are you thinking like a causeway? Are you thinking of, what was your thoughts?
So our thought process was kind of to tie together that Cinema Drive Plaza area. What we're planning is kind of doing protected area with enhanced pavers. I know we'd have to work with ACHD because Cinema Drive is a public road, but really create kind of this designated area with, speed bump that would help with safety, but create a safe point and a natural transition point over to the retail to the south.
Okay, okay. Are you thinking of anything, be it Wells is going to be a lighted intersection that's going to be conditional on this? Are you thinking of doing anything of working with the city or ACHD about any pedestrian traffic from the south side, or excuse me, the north side of Overland Road to the south side of Overland Road?
When we went forward on phase one, we tried to do that. Unfortunately, it's just so far down the road on ACHD's plan for the improvements that we really were kind of met with a dead end. I would love to do that and drive over that connectivity, but unfortunately, working with ACHD, there's no certainty of the path forward. The only thing we know is that it will be widened 20, 30 years down the road.
Right, but on the pedestrian side of things, to be able to get pedestrians to go from that side to the shops on that side, still just a lot of resistance from ACHD, then is what you're saying?
They have no plan to address those concerns.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
I believe there is a crosswalk on Millennium.
There is there, but not there at Wells. And that's where some of the traffic's going to be coming into your place, and just that's going to be a natural flow out. So that's all.
All right, if nothing further, then can I get a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0030 Overland and Wells 2?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0030. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Would like to comment first?
Mr. Chair, I will.
Yep, go ahead.
I think if we're going to have multifamily housing, this is a good place to have it. So it seems consistent with the area. I'm not concerned about the traffic, considering their point of Winco probably having more in and outs during the day. It seems pretty consistent with what's going on in Meridian along the freeway. Their amenities seem fine. The high school's across the street. There's doctor's offices, there's the cinema, there's restaurants. It all kind of connects together. And I just want to verify our objective tonight is not about commenting on the design plan, but the CUP,
Correct.
which is specifically just to approve multifamily residential from CG.
That is correct.
So that's all. I
Right ahead, Mr.
Chair. Can we go, staff, can we go back to the picture that showed the net losses for the traffic counts? That's okay, or that slide, please? The applicant side, was that on the applicant slide? I apologize then. Okay, so that was neat to know then that when it came down to the net losses, that was something that was kind of surprising to me. I thought it'd actually be more of a gain on putting in multifamily in here. It seems to fit with the area. I mean, we just approved something similar to this off of Fairview near Eagle Road, something that I would look at would be kind of similar to this. And traffic's always just going to be an issue when these things pop in. I know that, and I like the design and I like the way it's going to look unique. And I like some of the more upscale kind of amenities that the developer is thinking about putting in here. It's going to give it a really nice show, and I can see it definitely wanting to be a hangout spot for the residents themselves, run across, grab some food, and then come on back or make it themselves on that. So that was something that was very nice. Okay, thank you. Thank you, staff. Interesting. Okay, so because I live, just for disclosure, I live a mile away from this place. And so I'm very familiar with the traffic patterns that are here. And it's just, it's going to be tough on the traffic side of things. But whatever you're going to put in there, as long as, I mean, Winco is going to make it even more congested, looks like, than even this apartment complex. And we definitely need some more apartments in that area. I guess what I'm saying is that it looks like I like the way it's going to look, and I like the project itself, and I like the creativity in the design. It's not just a simple straight face with some relief on it. They're actually putting in some really upscale type of work. It's just, once again, just the traffic thing, but we're going to get that no matter what. And I think it's too much to ask for anything to do like a widening or a turnout lane or anything like that. But I could suggest to put in a pickleball court, because those look like that could happen. I saw a little space for that on the north end. So you might want to just consider that. Okay, there we go. All right. We'll put that in the approval. Make sure that the pickleball court gets made. Just kidding. That's all.
Okay. I'll just go through the good, the bad, and the ugly here. So the good is I really like this product. I can see what you're trying to do with it. And I think that it has a place in Meridian. Yeah, again, I like everything about it. And I think the place for it is next door to the east, where it already is. I was part of the panel that approved that based on the fact that there would be a commercial entity here. The overwhelming feedback that I get from residents of South Meridian is, please put in more stores. Please put in more stores. The ugly of this is that Winco went to somebody that wasn't a store, somebody that couldn't provide commercial to do it. Not your fault at all. But I think they've done the community in general a disservice by doing that, personally. If one of our other commissioners were here, and I can't put words in anybody's mouth, the words bait and switch would become up. So I personally can't support it. I don't think that it has a place here simply because of what it was based on, what was approved based on it being here. But that's my opinion. So again, great product, just a really bad position to be in. I think Winco has just really done a disservice by taking it in this direction, personally.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
when was the traffic count done for this project when Winco got its approval? Do we have a date on that or know any sort of time frame or anything like that?
Sonia, do you know anything? I was gonna say. I mean, it would have been a couple of years ago at least. So, and I mean, as far as the traffic, I know there's always, and I've been through enough of these that I understand that the traffic's going to be lessened by multifamily. The problem is 7 to 9 in the morning and 4 to 6 at night. It's not. It's unbearable through there already. And this would actually add to that. The rest of the day, yeah, there's going to be a lot more traffic. That's the nature of retail. That's when everybody's going to be in there because everybody's going from home to the retail place of business. So I don't see that this is going to help those times when it's most drastic out there on the roads, personally. So I understand it's going to be less overall, but that's just my opinion on it and what we've seen. So that's my opinions. Anybody else want to jump in? Okay. Do you want to take a stab at a motion?
Mr. Chair, I will. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for file number H 2022-0030 with no modifications.
Your second? Okay. Somebody needs to come up with something different then. So if you're not gonna go with the second, then you need to start letting us know why. And I'll start with Ms. Stoddard here.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, go ahead.
I agree with your comments. Sorry, I agree with you that we need more retail in Meridian. For myself, it's an issue. I think putting more people in without the accommodations for people to shop and a little bit concerning for myself as well.
Commissioner Wheeler, you didn't give a second? So what?
Yeah, for me, it really is just the traffic issue on this during these peak times, right next to high school. And then the way that the narrows roads and the accesses are, that's a really big concern, is the traffic side of it for me. And I would like to see some sort of an updated study and maybe ways to help out with that mitigation on some of the traffic on it. That would be my thing. I'd like to see an updated traffic study before any sort of approval on it. Has nothing to do with the product type, has nothing to do with what it is. It's everything to do with that congestion at the next half mile mark, right next to an on-ramp. And it just seems that can get really backed up most times during the day.
I mean, can't speak for staff, but I mean, we have to go on the information that we're given, and what we were given from ACHD is it's all good. I personally don't agree with that, but unfortunately, when they own the roads. So when that, what they were saying about it, the inability to put in crosswalks and things like that, that's ACHD. I mean, if they won't do it, they won't do it. So, and I mean, unless they're willing to buy the road, which most folks won't or can't in order to provide for that. So I mean, if we want to do a continuance until we can get a traffic study, I mean, we can't force them to do a traffic study since ACHD's already approved it.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
our task tonight is to do a conditional use permit.
Correct.
So it's either for multifamily housing or not family housing, is that right? That'll design aspects of it.
What, that is correct. And
For the multifamily housing, then I have to start all over, right?
unfortunately, this is one of those where at some point in time, council decided that they wanted to hear both of these at the same time. So they put the conditional use permit before us, knowing that the DA modification hasn't gone through so they can hear both of them. Unfortunately, I think this is the cart before the horse, personally. I would rather this go to city council so that they can weigh in on the DA modification. And then it would come to us to approve the conditional use permit for multifamily. Because personally, I think if this gets to city council, it ain't going nowhere.
So you're suggesting we deny the conditional use permit, they go to city council, get the DA modification, and then it comes back? Is that how that would work?
Mr. Chairman, can I help clarify a bit? And I'll
Absolutely.
ask our planners to help as well. So this is one of those unusual, as the chairman just alluded to, we have two different items that as part of the request to the city overall. So we have a request to modify an existing development agreement. That is not before the commission this evening, so that the recommendation comes from our community development director, and the decision-making body is the city council. So you don't have a formal role with respect to the request to modify the development agreement. Now, the reality is it's hard to talk about the CUP without talking about that as well. So they do sort of go hand in glove, but under our code, the recommendation comes from the director and then the decision's made by the council. Usually, typically, you are the decision-making body on a conditional use permit. This is one of the exceptions, however, in that the CUP is going forward with the development agreement. And so in this instance, you are a recommending body with respect to the CUP to the city council. So you're not making a yes or no decision, you're making a recommendation to the city council relative to the CUP. And then the council will look at both items, the development agreement modification and the CUP at its meeting, henceforth. That makes sense?
So if we deny the conditional use permit, it still goes to city council.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Orchard, you wouldn't be denying the CUP. A different way to say that is you would have a negative recommendation, or you'd recommend against the CUP. So you wouldn't be denying it, but you'd have a recommendation to not approve the CUP, but the council would make the decision to approve or deny.
It would be a recommend denial in that case.
So what are the words?
It's at this point, we're generally speaking, we are the approving body on a CUP, but this is going to be treated like anything else that would come through where we recommend approval or denial. Give the reasons.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if I can just elaborate on that. So that last comment or advice from the chairman, I'd like to reiterate that as well. So to the extent you can, you're not making the decision today, so it's not quite as critical, but I would highly recommend and encourage that individual council member or commissioners have given their thoughts here, but to explain and to describe your reasons for your motion. So in terms of, if the motion is, for example, to recommend denial, an explanation as to why that's the case. What's the rationale for that? The council will make that final decision. They will have to have their own rationale at that time, whether it's yay or nay, but it'd be helpful for our record, and then also helpful for the council in its decision-making process to understand the impetus or the rationale behind your motion this evening, whatever the motion might be.
Thank you. Anybody have comments? We're kind of at two ends of this thing here, so we gotta meet in the middle somewhere.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wheeler, go ahead.
Commissioner Lorchard, did you want to go for another motion or anything like that? Or what were your thoughts? It sounds like you're kind of,
Well, I already had mine. so I
Okay.
feel like I I would do the same one again.
Okay, Roger. Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Feel free.
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move for recommending denial to the city council file number H-2022-0030 as presented before, or excuse me, as presented during the hearing date of August 4th, 2022 for the following reasons: due to traffic concerns and that the original approval was retail space.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And moved and seconded to recommend denial of file number H-2022-0030 with the aforementioned reasons. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, for the record, that's Commissioner Lorcher. Okay, and with that, the recommendation for denial is approved. Or, yeah, okay. So, all right, thank you very much. The last item of business tonight is going to be the Planning and Zoning Commission Vice Chair election. So I've only had one person come back to me saying they would want the position, and that's Commissioner Lorcher. So just giving that information out to everybody. That said, if you're not here to defend yourself, you're fair game. That said,
Is this something we vote on or just discuss?
if anybody would like to have any discussion, go ahead. When I was thrown in here, it was just, everybody said, yeah, do that. And they voted and there I was. So, you know, that's kind of the feeding frenzy version of it. So if anybody has any comments, feel free. There still has to be nominations and we do have to vote.
Okay, so yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd be highly supportive of Commissioner Lorcher being the vice chair.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, so on that, then I'd like to make a motion that Commissioner Lorcher be not, that she be placed in as vice chair for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, we have I don't know, do we motion and, okay, we have a
Is that what?
motion and a second to approve Commissioner Lorcher as the vice chair for Planning and Zoning Commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Should I vote
opposed?
For myself?
Yeah. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Hey, all right.
Welcome to the party.
I was hoping that, I'm glad you didn't say no to that one or nay on that one.
That's right.
Yeah, shut down
Very
so much.
good. Congratulations. And we'll let you know everything that comes with that too. So now that you've been wrangled in. With that, I'm looking for one more motion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.